Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to talk about the document sending profiles and how it is used. And if you use the email document sending profile, then what is the difference between the default setting and so you could see there's two different settings here. What's the difference between these two options, prompt for settings and use default settings? Because I don't see any articles or videos mentioned about the differences, like demonstrate how these differences for the emails and how that works. So, but that's important for most of companies who use the electronic invoicing. But the electronic invoicing I'm talking about is different from this electronic document invoicing through the document exchange service. It's just like you can, in the post-sales invoices, then you can just click on the email, then you can send the invoice through the emails out to your customers, those kind of thing. Or when you click on post and send from the purchase order, then after the order is posted, then the email invoice can be sent out. I'm talking about that. So let's see how this works. So first, the document sending profiles is like for you to automate sending the documents, like the post-sales invoices, the invoices, and the order confirmations, remittances, like all different kind of electronic documents, to send them, to automate this and send them automatically. And so basically, you go to your document sending profiles, then you can create one. And when you create a document sending profiles, then you can specify if it's a default profile or not. So this default checkbox, what I mark here, so this one, if you select as a default, and on the customer card, if you didn't select the document sending profile, then it will use the default one. So, which means like, so for example, you have hundreds of customers in your system. You may not want to, on the customer card, you have a field which is called document sending profile. So you may not want to select that one by one. If you then, because there are too many, right? You have to update one by one. But then if you do want to specify that, you may want to use a configuration package to populate the document sending profile on the customer card. So right now I have selected as default, but the result of this, because I only have one document sending profile in my system, and that's a default one. So the result of that, no matter I put, so even on the customer card, I do not select any document sending profile, I leave it blank, then it's going to use the default one. As long as when you create a document profile, you just check mark, you just put on this check mark which says default. So this will be the one, even that document sending profile on the customer card is blank, then it's gonna use this default one. Okay, so in this case, you don't even need to fill that in. If you only have one document sending profile and that's the default one. So you only have one and you have the default check mark checked. So if you have multiple, you can create multiple document sending profiles. So except for this one, I already have in the system, and I can create another one, right? So for example, I have one customer, they only prefer sending it by mail. They still want the paper invoice. They don't want us to send it electronically. So then you may want to just create another one, right? And for another one, so you may say just print. This one will be print. And so this one is not a default one. And so you want to use the default setting to print the PDF of the invoices or other documents. And then you want to mail it out. So that's another option, right? So you can have this. So you can have multiple document sending profiles, and they can have different options. And you can one can be using the printer to print, and another one is using the email. And then if you have specific customer who only prefer the mailed out document, like invoices or whatever, then you can use this one. And on the customer card, you can select this print as the option. So that's the differences. So what I want to talk about, so what is and the next field here, you could see that you can have this printer. So for the printer, you also have otherwise you don't want to print at all, or you want to print and then you want to prompt for settings or use the default setting. Use the default settings is like whatever the default printer set up on your Windows client of this Business Central Dynamics Nav, then it's going to use that system print, the default printer file system. So, and all it can ask you, so when you click on post and send from the sales order, then it will ask you, it will give you the report, when you post the sales order, when you create a sales invoices, that's a report in that, right, in Business Central. So then it will show that the report request page and ask you how many number of sales invoices you want to print, those kind of things. It will show that report request page. So that will be the prompt for settings, because it did ask you how many number of the invoices you want to print. And otherwise, it just does not pop up that screen. It does not pop up that window and just print to a default printer on your computer automatically. That's the use default settings. I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to talk about using the email option, because that is more important. Okay, so I set up this print, but this is not the default setting. If it's not the default setting, if you leave the customer card as a blank, then it's not gonna use this document sending profile. It's only gonna use the default one. So then I have to specify this customer. I have a test customer I created. I'm gonna use this test customer and then specify this new profile I just created. For print, I'm gonna use this print document layout. Not document layout. I'm just gonna use this print document sending profile, and so I'll just leave everything else as that. So first, I'm gonna use the default settings. Then you can see how the default settings is used. Okay, so I put it on this customer card, and then I'm gonna create a sales order for this customer, and then so when I go to print and send, then you could see it will populate this document sending profile as print. So let's go to sales order, create a new one, and use this test customer. So actually the test customer. Okay, and you can put a number, but you can also put in the name. But when you put in the name, so what you have to do, then you have to click on this filter in order for it to show up. Okay, and so for this, I just quickly put in an item, and then I'm gonna just ship it first. Then I'm gonna invoice it. Okay. So I ship this, and then I'll just click on that post, and this is the post and send button. I'm just gonna cancel. You can, when you hover it, then you can see this is the post and send. This is when I send the invoice, what you want to do. Okay, so when you post and send this invoice, and do you want to send the doc? So because we selected that document sending profile as a printer, so then it's gonna use and also we selected use the default setting. So it's going to use my default printer, whatever the printer selection on a computer, and then it's going to use that printer to automatically print it. Okay, so you will see I should have a default printer. So I have a default printer selected here. Okay, and then it's going to use that printer. Then click on yes. Then this time I'm just going to invoice because I already post shipment. Okay, and then you see it doesn't pop up another screen, because it's just gonna call my printer. You see, it just sent to my printer, but my printer is offline. it just sent to my printer automatically. The system default printer is using the system default setting. So this is how you use the system default setting. And then I'm gonna create another sales order, but also for this customer. And now this time what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna change this document layout to something else, okay? Document sending profile, sorry. So I'm gonna just change this document sending profile to use the prompt for settings. Then you can see the difference, okay? So you can see already change on this to use the prompt settings. And then I just want to refresh it just to make sure it can, whatever I selected can take effect, okay? So this time I just want to double check how my settings is still there on this customer. The document sending profile is print, and then we already changed this print option to use the prompt for settings, okay? And now we just finish the sales order. We can finish the sales order and quickly put it into the line. Okay, so now I'm gonna just ship it first, and then I'm gonna post and send for the invoice. Okay, so this time I'm gonna click on post and send again. So it will populate the report request page for that sales invoice. So I'm gonna invoice. You see, this is the request report page. When you print for the posted sales invoice, then it will populate this request report page. It will just ask you like filter to this customer or whatever. Then it asks you to the print option, right? So you can print it to PDF, you can print it to Word, you can print it to a physical printer. So this is what I mentioned, like this is prompt for settings, right? That's a different option. Then you can see the difference. So the first, when I select use the system default, then it just connect to my default printer automatically to print it. But then when I select use the prompt for settings, when I select prompt for settings, it will pop up that report request page and then ask you what format of print you want to print it to. Either it's PDF or Word or Excel or print to a physical printer. That's the difference between user default and the prompt for settings. So that's for the print part. But as I said, for the document layout, in my document sending profile, sorry, always talking about the document layout, you have to use the combination of the document layout together with this document sending profile if you are using the email option. So, but when you use the document sending profile and you set up it as a sending through the emails, so I disable the printer options. So I put the printer options to no. I don't want to use the printer. And then I want to use the email. I want to use email, and for the email, you also have the prompt for settings and use default settings. So this is the key. And I will tell you how useful is this and how use this of this. So the thing is like if you select prompt for settings for the email, let's first talk about the use the default settings. So if you select use the default settings, even you do not, so no matter what options you select there, it's going to call your Outlook. It's going to call the Outlook on your local computer, which you ran this Windows client, okay? It's not going to use SMTP. So that's the problem. That's how useless this function is, right? Because if you do want to sending your invoices in batch, you don't want the Outlook to pop up every time. You don't want it to call the Outlook every time because it's just a wasting time. You want it to go through the SMTP automatically and then do not have so many pop-ups just to batch sending the invoices, okay? So no matter what options you select, either for the email option, either you select use default settings or prompt for settings, it's going to call your local Outlook. So first I'll show you how to use the default default settings, okay? And still use that customer as example, and I'm gonna use the default settings, and this time because that's my default document sending profile. Even on the customer card, I blank out this field for the document sending profile. It's still gonna use it, okay? But just for demo purpose, I will put this in just for you to see like I really use that document sending profile. But actually, even you blank this out, then it's gonna still use that default document sending profile. And in order for the customer to receive the invoice automatically without you putting the email address of the recipient every time, then what you can do, you have to use that document sending profile in combination together with the document layouts. So on this customer card, you have to set up the document layout. You have to specify this is for the invoice, for the sales invoice. You have to specify the report ID and the customer's email address. And if you want to, for the email you send to the customer, you want to design email in the email body, then you can use the custom report layout to design it. And then after you created that customer report layout, you can select that customer report layout here in the email body. Okay, so you set up this document layout, and then I'm gonna create a sales order for this customer again. Then you see what's gonna happen. I purposely closed my Outlook client and let you to see if you close Outlook, what's gonna happen. Okay, so create another sales order for this customer and already change this customer to use the email. And when I click on post and send, so it should use that document sending profile of the email. And that document sending profile is used the default settings. Okay, so this customer, and on the line we just put in this item again. Okay, and then I'm gonna ship it first because I only want to send the invoice by electronically. Then I click on post and send. This gonna send the it's gonna post this sales invoice for the sales order, and then it's gonna send it through the email. And when you click on yes, then I'm gonna click on invoice, right? And so you could see it still pop up this screen. And then you have to click on OK. And after you click on OK, it's gonna call your Outlook. But because I purposely closed my Outlook, and it will say Outlook is not available. And do you still want to? You see at the bottom in the system tree, it shows it's trying. So it says another program is using Outlook to disconnect. Then it just so it's still trying to call your Outlook, right? So anyway, it's trying to call your Outlook. Even you close your Outlook, it still open your Outlook. Then you still have to click on this button to confirm sending it. I'm just gonna click on send, okay? Otherwise, then if it couldn't open your Outlook, so sometimes this time it opened my Outlook successfully. And after I click on OK, then you see my Outlook is actually not open. I still have to open it again. So it just still use your Outlook and still giving you that pop-up for the Outlook. And it may take some time for you to receive that email notification. But the thing is like, even you use the system default profile for the system default setting for this, it's still calling your Outlook. There are still many clicks you have to click on OK. Then it will bring up the screen of your Outlook and trying to connect to your Outlook. And depends on, you see I received email notification, and depends on if your Outlook is available or not. Then you have a 2 or 3 dialog box for you to click on yes or OK or like confirm. This is not very convenient, right? And so this is actually not very convenient. But so for this use default setting, the thing is like even when I did that, I do not have my Outlook opened. Then it will still open that Outlook box to send the email, and then after you send, then the Outlook is still like not in the open status. It just the program call it once after you send it, then it's closed. So, but if you use the prompt for settings, then you will have more clicks to do. That show you how the prompt for settings work for this email. So that's change for this. Let me go to the customer again, and I'm just gonna change that document layout sending profile to the prompt for settings. But so sometimes you do, I don't see how ultimate this use default settings can do. If you want to send out the email invoices without much human intervention. So let's use the prompt for settings. Then you can see what the difference. If you have prompt for settings, it just for this use default. Sometimes if the Outlook is not available, it don't even need to open the Outlook. Then it just give you another option like yes or no. Then you click on you don't want to open Outlook. Then it still send out the email. So that's how this automation is when you select default. But when you select prompt for settings, it must open the Outlook. So I change it to prompt for settings now. And then we can use this customer to create another sales orders. Then you see how it works. Okay, so let's go to the sales orders again. And then just quickly create a sales order for this customer again. Then you can see. So because of these issues, it doesn't do much automation. So most of customers, they want to skip this. So it just do not use this post and send option, because anyway it's gonna open your Outlook. No matter you select use default settings or you select prompt for settings, it's gonna open your Outlook. So mostly they will just a post, and then they just customize, ask the partner to customize, ask us to customize our functionality just to for sending the invoices in batch. And then if any invoices missed, then we have a Boolean field. We have a counter like number of invoice emailed. Then they can use through that counter. They can know if it's ever printed, if it's ever emailed or not. Then they can decide when they batch sending the missed email again, invoice again. Okay, so I just created another sales order for this customer. So I'm gonna ship it again, and then after ship it, I'm gonna click on post and send again. So this time I selected prompt for settings. Then you can see. So it will call that window. Then it has, because you put the document layout for this. This is in the document layout you put in this email address already. So no matter you select use default settings or prompt for settings, this email address is here. And then you have to click on OK. So this is the same step as when you select use the default settings, right? And then you see it's calling your Outlook here. And then it's going to open your Outlook. It's going to open your Outlook. So this is the same as what happened for use the default settings. Then you click on send. Okay, so the only difference I noticed this, because what you can see here, prompt for settings for this email and the use default settings is exactly the same as you do they're exactly the same steps, right? They both call your Outlook, and there's a few windows you have to click on OK or yes in order to get there, and also for this prompt for settings, you could see it didn't open my Outlook afterwards. So, but what the use the default settings does is like even your Outlook is not available, and even what I noticed, because once I tested, even my Outlook, I purposely closed my Outlook. My Outlook is not available, and that email was sent. it just gave me a dialog box like if you still want to send it, yes or no, and I click on the yes, and it still send it. It doesn't. So even the Outlook cannot open, it still send it. That's a user default setting. So I don't see much difference regarding the email side. For the print side, for the printer, using the printer, then there's an actual dialog box for you, which is the report request page, for you to select what format of print you want to print that invoice to. But for the email, no matter you select use default settings or the prompt for settings, the effect is very similar, right? I just noticed from one of my testing, when I select use default setting, even like my Outlook is unavailable, at the end it couldn't open that Outlook window, but it's still, after you confirm, yes, you still want to send it, then it still send it. That's the only difference I can see. And it seems prompt for settings, it may mandatory to open your Outlook, could be. So, but I do not notice much difference when sending emails through use the default settings and use the prompt for settings for the email. And so because of this, it must call your Outlook. It's not very useful because there's so many clicks. It's not like using your SMTP to send it. After you click on OK from that window, the first window, then it will send through SMTP right away. Because you have to wait. There's a long wait time for you to wait for it to call your Outlook, right? If you do not have your Outlook open, even sometimes you may not even have Outlook installed on that computer. So it's very inconvenient. It's not kind of automation. So that's why I'm saying like no matter the email use default settings or prompt for settings, they're not very useful. If you can bear like the wait time for it to call your Outlook, you can bear. You can tolerate the, you have to click on so many clicks in order to send one invoice. That's fine. But so that's why most customers, they do not think it's useful for that electronic invoicing to send email that invoices. Usually we will do a customization for the customer, and they just post the sales orders regularly. And then they can batch sending the invoice. Then we create a button in the ribbon which said batch email, and then they highlight all the invoices they want to email. Then it just goes through the SMTP setup. So in your system, you have the SMTP mail setup here, right? So it just use the SMTP mail setup here. And then we can create a counter here, which says emailed, number of copy emailed. Then they know which invoices has been emailed, which invoices has been missed. Because when you email it could be some errors. You didn't set up the document layout for the customer. It couldn't find the email address to send the invoices. It could be some errors. So that's why the email hasn't been sent out. So we have that counter. It's not here because this is the demo database. It doesn't have that. It's similar to number printed. You will see a number emailed. Then they can see the number. If it's number 0, that means they haven't emailed invoices yet. Then they can highlight those invoices missed. And then they can click on the batch email again. So it's going to send through the SMTP mail setup. Yeah, send through the SMTP. So I'm using Business Central version 14 for this on-premise install. But for Business Central SaaS, for the latest version, I think there's a new feature, like it makes the email functionality more convenient. Then you can email from Business Central SaaS inside of it automatically. There are 3 different options, SMTP or Office 365. There's different options, but I think that feature is still like that's a upcoming feature, still not available on Business Central SaaS yet, but it will be available soon. So with that feature, maybe there's some improvement on this. But through the document sending profile for this email functionality, I don't see it's useful. At least you can send the email when you post it, but it's not very useful when you want to automate the email invoices functionality to batch sending the emails. that functionality will not work. So because what you can do, you can highlight everything here, then you can select send by email, right? You can do this. And then as long as you have the document layout select, it will pop up the screen. You have to keep on clicking on OK. You know how many pop-up screen you have to click on OK, then it will call your Outlook, right? So it's not very useful in that regard. You see, after I click on one, it just keep on pop up the screen, right? And then because these invoices I only have 2 customers or 3 customers use. But like think about it, you have hundreds of customers and you highlight all the invoices you want to batch sending them, and it just keep on pop up those screens and then keep on calling your Outlook. It's not very convenient at all. Okay. Yeah, so that's everything I want to share in this video. Hope it's helpful. Thank you so much for watching this YouTube video. I hope to see you guys again next time.